Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here, got another Master Duel video for you, and it's Monday, which of course means it is time for another one of our weekly viewer specials. For those who are not in the know, if this is your first viewer special video, then what we do here every single Monday is we watch replays from you all, the viewers. It's a great way to see a lot of decks that I might not otherwise have time to build and or play. It's a cool way to see what other people are cooking and see their awesome replays, and it's a great opportunity to cheer each other on. Just have that kind of like community support. I really appreciate that from you all. In not only the YouTube comments of these videos, but within the Discord server itself. Speaking of our Discord server, the Hexlexplex, there's an invite link for it in the description below, and that's where you're going to want to go if you want to submit a replay for the viewer special. In that Discord server, under the Master Duel section, there is a channel called Viewer Special Submissions. The main thing I'll need from you there is your 9-digit player ID, so that way I can view your publicly saved replays. Please do make sure this number is entered correctly and that your replays are set to public. Those are the two biggest things that stop me from being able to see people's replays, because I do watch like pretty much everything that comes in. There's only so many we can feature per week, but know that if you submitted, there's like a 90% chance that I watched your replay. But yeah, I think that's about all I got. Oh, the only other thing is that if you want to submit multiple different replays, that's cool. The only thing that I ask you don't do is that you just don't submit the same replay over and over again. But we've never really had an issue with that, so it's all good. But yeah, let's go ahead and just start diving into your games. Okay, so our first game for this video comes to us from Abe Mania, who's playing an archetype from one of the archetypes rather from the newest pack. We're actually playing an Allure Queen deck, which is pretty cool. Yeah, so Allure Queen, as mentioned before, did get a bunch of new support from the latest pack there. I see we're playing the level 3, the level 7, the Chaos Allure Queen as well, one of the new pieces of support. And of course there is also the spell card Allure Dance, which lets you add an Allure Queen monster or Allure Palace, and then the Allure Palace being the new field spell here. So I noticed we're not on the big Link monster. It looks like we're using the Allure Queen as more of an engine than the actual like focus of the deck. So I'm really eager to see how this plays out. Also notice that we're on an Azamita package as well, which is very cool. Alright, and let's see, our opponent is going to be on a pretty standard looking White Forest deck. Alright, let's see what we got here. I think Abe was also saying in the Discord server that you can use the Allure engine in Snake Eye as well, which is pretty interesting. Let's see what we got. So we're going second here, actually. We have a couple of pretty good hand traps here, as well as the Chaos Allure Queen and some not hand traps. Well, we do have hand traps, but cashier cards is what I meant to say. Okay, they're going to go Wanted for DML, then LZ pitch the Imperm. This is pretty good for us that they're following up with the LZ, because since we have Ash Blossom and Valor, we know we can Ash the LZ, and then whenever they go to summon the Diabell Star, we can Valor it. Although it looks like we actually might need to Valor the Rasila that's coming out here. Okay, no, they didn't have a spell card. Never mind, that's good for us. So yeah, we can simply use the Valor, yep, on the Diabell Star here. Sounds good to me. Yeah, I don't really know why our opponent bothered to go for the Rasila first there. I think I would have rather have held the LZ plus Rusia in hand for a follow-up turn, potentially. I mean, yeah, they can pivot into Fiendsmith here, but they're only going to really end up with one body at the end of this, just the Engraver. Yeah, until Lacrima the Crimson Tears comes out, we don't get to go actual full combo. Oh, wait, that's right. They can summon back the Rusia and then go for a level 10. I'd forgotten about that. Oh, that explains why they made a level 6. Okay, this makes sense. Yeah. I don't agree with the Baron in defense mode, personally. I just think that I mean, here's the thing for Baron in defense mode with me, right? 2400 defense, like, if this had 2500 defense, then I could be a little bit more on board with putting Baron in defense mode. And that might seem like a bit of a nitpick, and, like, it might not matter, but if you think about it, 2500 is a number that matters a lot, right? You think about Diabellstar, you think about Cashier Unicorn, as two of the most common cards that come down first thing from your opponent, that can just run over this Baron, right? And neither of those activate their effects to special summon either. So if I were my opponent, and just in general, you know, generally speaking too, I would definitely rather put Baron in attack mode than defense mode, pretty much every single time. Okay, well, I don't know why they brought back Engraver just to send it. It kind of felt like they're just clicking buttons there, but... Okay, here's the Allure dance. So I think hopefully this should let us pivot into our Allure Queen engine. We're adding the Allure Queen level 3, and then I think we're just using her to make Typhone here. Yeah, we're just going to use her to make Typhone, which puts us in a pretty good position. Bouncing back the Baron. I might have personally kept the material on the Typhone and just run over the Baron, but I mean, that's fine either way, I suppose. Okay, Engraver is going to bring itself back by putting back the Requiem. I guess by summoning back Engraver last turn, they got to put back another card into their extra deck, but it's like debatable how good that is. Okay, Requiem for the other Engraver. Normal summon Ash Blossom. Opponent choosing not to use Requiem's Graveyard effect now is a little weird. They could have sent the Typhone for free, but we're definitely okay with them not doing that. Sequence for Lacrima. Lacrima to add or summon Engraver? They're summoning Engraver. So do they want to make... No. Okay, so yeah, there they should have added Engraver back to hand for Tract for Lurie, if they're just going to go into an SP Little Knight. And especially if you're going to use Little Knight to just banish the Typhone, I think you should, our opponent should have bounced it. And then they could have banished like the face down card or something. Alright, so we're using the Allure Dance to bring back our Allure Queen level 3. Normal summoning the Fuelos, then linking off Fuelos for, is this Almirage? It is in fact Almirage. And I suspect we're going to make our own SP Little Knight here, which I believe is going to be the case. Now, if we activate to banish, they're probably just going to chain their Little Knight. Oh, interesting. Not if we banish their Graveyard Engraver. That was a really good call, honestly. Because I was just about to say, yeah, if we try to banish something on the field, then... well, then you're just going to activate the Little Knight effect, and it'll effectively have done nothing. But, yeah, keeping Engraver out of the graveyard does stop them from being able to extend further into plays. Alright, here we go, getting a Cashier Unicorn, finally able to take out this Little Knight, and honestly, finally getting some, you know, decent amount of plays going here. Alright, we're double tributing for the Chaos Allure Queen. And now we can really get things going with the Allure Queen engine, summoning out the Allure Queen level 7, and then overlaying for the rank 7 Kashtira Shangri-Ira. And then this is how the Allure Queen and Kashtira engines intersect, with the Chaos Allure Queen being a rank 7, which of course, you know, Kashtira very much appreciates. Pulling out Fenrir, both of our monsters have too high a defense for them to be able to do anything about it. Then we get to put the Unicorn in play on the next standby phase. Unicorn F to add Birth. Birth activating here. We get to use Fenrir F to add the Rise Heart. And we're pretty much just off to the races at this point. We even have the Deception to go into our Azamina engine, as well as the Birth to bring back the Unicorn that we just tributed. Going straight for the Ilias Sylvia. That way we can play around hand traps and not get Nibiru if we're going to continue to kind of pop off here, which it looks like we're about to. Oh wait, no, if we move to battle phase here, yeah, that's just lethal. We didn't even need to pop off, but I do think that putting the Ilias Sylvia on board, just in case they had something, was definitely a pretty good call there. So, wow, good stuff using the Allure Queen engine to support other strategies. Like, even if it's not the best deck by itself, it does still do quite a bit for others. Alright, thank you very much, Abe, for that awesome submission. We still have a couple more to check out, though. Let's go into the next one. Alright, for our next replay, we have one from Tensile, or Tensile? I'm not actually sure. I think it's one of those words you could pronounce either way, right? Well, anyway. We have here we're going to be on the White Forest Toy Azamina deck. And it looks like our opponent, I was a little bit interested here too. You said our opponent's on a going second Gimmick Puppet deck. Going second to Gimmick Puppet, that's really interesting. They have like a machine dupe. World Call By is very nice. Be interested to see how this plays out. But the main theme, as you can see here, is going to be drawing from what Tensile, sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, was saying on Discord. It sounds like this is going to be a game where max Cs will be flying and challenges will be accepted. So let's see what we got going on here. We're going to be taking the first turn, opening triple Diabell Star, as well as max C Dark Ruler no more. Going to end up pitching Diabell Star for Diabell Star, using the Diabell F, but our opponent's going to fire off a max C. Maybe I misread your message. Maybe it wasn't like specifically a going second Gimmick Puppet deck, but more of like a just a Gimmick Puppet deck that went second. But we'll see. Alright, so Deception, tributing off that last Diabell Star, going to go for Hallowed Azamina from Murashilago here, setting off a Deception in order to summon, and then of course we get to add a Sinful Spoils card. And sure enough, yeah, we're just going for it into this max C. Our opponent's going to Ash Blossom the Murashilago, which is actually totally fine. Because as you can see in this situation, our opponent is actually still down one card, and we have established a couple of bodies on board, which is a pretty nice situation to be in considering we got max C'd. Alright, so we're going to max C in response to the Condolence Puppet F, and let's see what they end up doing in response to that. Alright, so they get to add back, rather, both the Rogue Doll and the Fiendish Knight by their own respective effects, essentially turning that Condolence Puppet into a double Rhoda in this situation. It's pretty good. Trade in, pitching that Rogue Doll to draw 2. I think it's actually Rouge Doll because it's red, right? Yeah, it's Rouge Doll. Alright, Little Soldiers coming out here, bidding the Cattle Scream. Oh, I actually remember the card's name. I thought I was just kind of saying words. I was like, it's Cattle something Scream. I don't know. And it actually did end up being the name. Fantastic's Machinix coming down on the opponent's board with a Royal copy as well, detaching Little Soldiers to add the Rank Up Magic Argent Force. Yeah, they're just much like, well, not like much like we were. We did stop, of course, at a reasonable point, but I suppose just going to go for the OTK through the max C. Hand traps be damned. Alright, Service Puppet Play getting added to hand. They're triple tacking here to draw 2. Interesting. We do have a pretty decent hand trap actually already in our hand in the form of Bestial Baldrake. A lot of the times when it comes to, you know, actually countering the Gimmick Puppet deck, one of the best ways of disruption that you can have against them is stuff that banishes from Graveyard, right? Because, you know, they have effects that say, oh, you can't respond to the activation of Gimmick Puppet effects, or, I think that's what actually the field spell that's on board does, right? Yeah, they can't be destroyed by battle, and they're unaffected by activated effects, and then I think it's actually the Rouge Doll that says they can't be... No, it's Terror Baby. Terror Baby says that you can't respond to Gimmick Puppet effects, and that might make it seem like you can't do anything to them at all, but all those protection conditions do not stop you from banishing their cards from the graveyard, which they do need in order to be able to do their plays, right? So Bestials and DD Crow are some of the best hand traps that you can have against the Gimmick Puppet deck. And you might wonder, well, okay, how does that work, though, if you can't chain to Gimmick Puppet effects? But the idea is that, in that case, we're using the banish effects when we're past priority before the opponent activates the graveyard effect, basically in an open game state. You're starting a new chain link. That'll often require you to have your toggle set to on to be able to do that, though. Yeah, there's the Terror Baby, and yeah, can't activate effects in response to Gimmick Puppet cards. This is also, like I've mentioned in like the past couple of tier list videos, why Gimmick Puppet tends to not be as good in MD as it is in paper, is because if all of a sudden a lot of Gimmick Puppets, you know, start appearing on ladder, then people can change their decks on the fly to include more Bestials and DD Crows. If you're playing in a tournament and all of a sudden you're running into a ton of Gimmick Puppet, well, you can't change your deck on the fly to counter it, right? Yeah, and like a continuous play ranked ladder situation, the deck ends up being a lot weaker as a result. Yeah, Yeah, they're still going for it here, going for the Giant Grinder F. We're going to use Magnamut here to banish the Heaven Strings out of the graveyard. I mean, it's like I said, right? You know, it's just been all these bestial effects have been so helpful, and those are pretty much the main hand traps that we've used. Actually, those are the only hand traps we've used aside from the Maxi in order to draw into them, right? Again, just demonstrating exactly how effective these cards are here. So taking our Bestials and overlaying with them for another Fantastics Machinax. We're still at 3650, and they still have quite a bit of damage they need to do here. Yeah, I'm just gonna say we're looking pretty good at this point. Of course, we're gonna lead with the Dark Ruler no more. Actually, I don't know if we needed to do that here. I don't think any of these are quick effects. Well, this doesn't have material. These don't have materials. This is not a quick effect, right? Yeah. I don't think this is a quick effect either. I mean, to be fair, if we out this board, then we're just going to win anyway, because, you know, by virtue of being an FTK deck, the Gimmick Puppet kind of is fire all cylinders in one turn here, right? If we get rid of all this stuff, they're going to have nothing left to make follow-up plays. So in that regard, you know, it doesn't really matter if we can't deal damage this turn. Ooh, how does it mean a chaining Sinful Spoils Light Forest will let us fuse into the Ilias Sylvia? Oh, interesting. We specialed Sylvie from hand. I thought we were going to go for Guardian Chimera. But this works as well. We're going to Sylvie for the Tails, Special Rusia, Bin Woes, draw a card, Woes F, set itself. Wanted F to draw yet another card. Now, our opponent does have a couple of pretty high defense monsters in play. I mean, I don't know. We can run over the Giant Grinder with Diabell. Fantastics Machinix, we might need to make, like, maybe a Baron. Can we make a Baron in this game state? Well, we have access to the Azamina stuff, right? And Murashilago is still in here. Yeah, so we should be able to make Baron. Yeah, of course, we already knew about the Service Puppet play. That we can just negate. That's not a big deal. Going for the Esteller, setting Tails. Tails F is going to let us add another Esteller. Oh, okay, we're singing for Baron this way. That works as well. So yeah, now we can Baron pop the Fantastics. Actually, don't we need to get rid of the field spell? Because unaffected by activated effects except exceeds monsters. Yeah, we need to get rid of the field spell too. Oh, whoa. We're going for Albion here. I didn't even notice that in our extra deck. Oh, is this Dragoon? Right, of course. I forgot this deck could do this. Yeah, that's definitely another way to start outing their cards. Yeah, we can Baron pop the field spell, move to battle, run over their board except for the Fantastics, then we can use Dragoon on the Fantastics. Oh, wait, no, we can't because we didn't use an Oral Monster for it. Never mind. But honestly, it's probably not that big of a deal if the Fantastics is left in play. Because like I said, you know, the deck is kind of already fired on all cylinders, so to speak. And they don't really think they have that much left in terms of follow-up plays. Alright, so I think we should definitely negate this. Yep, good call, because the Terror Baby is already activated, so we can't chain to Gimmick Puppet effects. So we should be using our negates on, obviously, non-Gimmick Puppet effects. Alright, so they're going to go for Dreary Doll. Then we're flipping up the Woes. Woes for LZ. Alright, so now they have 2 8s. They can make a rank 8. What is that going to be? It's going to be another Giant Grinder. They're going to rank up again. Yeah, I don't know. I wonder if we really could have gotten rid of that Fantastics. I wonder if we could have done, like... Oh, we don't have Little Knight in our extra deck. I was going to say, could we have made a Little Knight with the Albion and something else, possibly? But it looks like we didn't have room for it here. Yeah, Giant Grinder is still negated thanks to Call By, so that's pretty good. It's funny, even without the toy box, we actually would have lived that attack by 50 damage. It's kind of funny. Alright, and at this point, our opponent is more or less completely out of things to do in terms of both what's left in their deck and honestly what's left on their field as well. Special summoning LZ Azamina and then fusing our two LZs into a Mu Rishiolago is going to let us use the Rishiolago F in order to add a Sinful Spoils of Light Force from deck to hand. Toy box is going to set the soldier and the tank, or just the soldier. Then Howled Azamina adding back, putting back Ilias Sylvia. We can make that Ilias Sylvia yet again, keeping the Omni Negate in play. Moving to battle phase, we're going to battle over their board, and then still not quite lethal, but honestly at this... Oh no, it is lethal. I just can't do math. And even then we did also have, yeah, the extra fusion as well. There's the Guardian Chimera. Alright. And there we have it. Wow, good stuff. Those Max C's very much deciding the course of the game there. And those Bestial monsters were so good against Gimmick Puppet. Good stuff. Thank you, Tensile. Yeah, we have one more game we're going to take a look at before we finish off. Let's end with that one. And finally, our last duel for this video comes to us from Kino Hara, who has a deck I'm quite interested in checking out here. Let me see which of these replays was it. It was actually this one is the one we're going to take a look at here. Yeah, we are playing Metalmorph. Where is it? Metalmorph. With Paleos. Not a combination I was expecting, but you know, I am very eager to see how this is going to play out. Yeah, they were saying that we're only on 50 cards here rather than 60 because we're playing so many monsters in this version that the reasoning isn't quite as effective, which makes sense. Definitely makes sense. Alright, and then it looks like our opponent is going to be on a Blue Eyes deck from what I can tell. Yep. Blue Eyes with Dragoon and a 14-card extra deck. Interesting. Alright. Let's see what we've got. Oh, I saw the Dragon Master Magia in our opponent's deck as well, but Metalmorph Paleo. See, I was wondering if someone was going to submit, you know, Dragon Link with the new Metalmorph stuff. That's the Metalmorph deck I expected to see, but, y'all continue to surpass my expectations with the brews that you cook up here. Alright, so we got the incoming machine off that draw 2 there. Let's add the Metal Illusionist. Metal Illusionist, after we summon, can set the max Metalmorph directly from our deck. We're going to change our Metal Illusionist to Dragon, setting 3 and then passing. It's going to let us use our max Metalmorph effect to turn that into the new Red Eyes Metal Dragon. Opponent has a Max C in response to the Max Metalmorph. So there's the Red Eyes Black Full Metal Dragon. I didn't realize that had an animation. It looks pretty clean, honestly. This is, of course, an Omni Negate effect, which is rather cool. Opponent's going to start with the Schwarzschild in Blue Eyes. Interesting. And then they can summon out the Blue Eyes itself, going for Neo Kaiser Seahorse as well. That we're going to negate with the Full Metal Dragon. Also deal 2k damage to our opponent there. They're going to follow up with Maiden in White for the True Light, but we can simply use the Paleo Olean. Oh my god, Paleo names. Ole is what I usually call this. Paleo Ole can pop the True Light, which will of course let us pop the opponent's whole board because of the True Light F as well. Our opponent did still get to set the Wishes for Eyes of Blue. Yeah, this is definitely not a standard Blue Eyes deck like I said it was. This is very obviously the Dragon Master Magia variant. I just should have looked for longer than 2 seconds when looking at the list, but it's all good. Alright, so summoning Blue Eyes, bringing back Maiden, Wish F to equip with regular Blue Eyes Ultimate instead of Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate for some reason. But they're choosing not to synchro or really battle at all here. They're just passing over to us. Interesting. Okay. There's another incoming machine. We can actually use the Graveyard effect here to turn the Blue Eyes to attack mode. That's wild how relevant that ended up being here. Needlebug Nest to get our mills off the races here. Of course, we can start bringing back our Paleo monsters as well. There's Rise to Full Height, a card you always want in your graveyard when playing this deck. Absolute King Backjack is an absolutely great mill as well. And then we can summon our Slime here too. Another incoming machine to add the Red Eyes Metal Claws Dragon from deck to hand. I actually didn't know there were 2 Red Eyes cards for this archetype. That's kind of neat. Here's the Opabinia. Opabinia F detached to add a Paleo Trap. It's going to be the Morella, which we can activate thanks to the Opabinia F. And we can bring back the Morella that's in our graveyard as well. Not only getting another body, but also setting up another trap card into the graveyard, which is going to be the Transaction Rollback. Definitely makes sense. Yeah, once you've got Transaction Rollback and Rise to Full Height in your graveyard as Paleo, I can't speak to somebody who plays Paleo because I haven't played Paleo, but when I'm playing against Paleo and they have Rise to Full Height plus Transaction Rollback in the graveyard, it kind of feels like they can just do whatever they want at that point. Okay, so Ultimate Fusion here, ultimately getting negated. We're pitching our last card to summon the Red Eyes Metal Claws Dragon, which adds the Flame Coating Metalmorph from deck to hand. Can activate that right away in order to sack and summon a new monster. Of course, we're going to get to summon a Paleo since we used a trap card as well. Here is the Metal Flame Swordsman. And we're going to use our dragon to battle over their Blue Eyes. Red Eyes conquering the Blue Eyes White Dragon. Neo Kaiser Seahorse is going to mill a Chaos Max for them. We get to burn with the Metal Flame Swordsman. They're going to bring back Blue Eyes once Maiden is targeted for an attack, but we simply burn them for doing so, reducing them to a mere 800 life points. We're then going to link off our Paleo monsters in order to summon the Sprite Elf. Then we can use Elf F to bring back the Opabinia, as well as, of course, providing some targeting protection for our board. Yeah, the Flame Swordsman, deals 500 per effect activated, meaning our opponent gets... I mean, this Jerusalem is their last effect. They don't get to activate another effect, or they're going to take burn damage. Unless they deal with the Flame Swordsman first. But they don't really have a clean way of doing that, unfortunately. Because if they try to crash Jerusalem into any of our stuff, they're just going to lose. So, Ver Anaconda definitely does not do anything here. Oh, no, but they linked off Jerusalem to use the effect. But we have the full Metal Dragon effect here to simply negate. And at this point, yeah, our opponent just literally can't do anything. They're only at 300. We have the Metal Flame Swordsman out. They're going to get burned for even looking at us funny. And actually get burned right now. We don't have to wait for it. That was really, really cool. That is not a combination I would have expected at all. But I mean, when you think about it, Metalmorph being centered around trap cards definitely does fit with what Paleo is trying to do as far as activating a lot of trap cards. So this combination ended up seeming a lot more effective than I think a lot of people would have thought. Thank you very much for sharing that, Kinohara, as well as everybody else who shared for this week's viewer special. This was a really, really good one. Lots of really good and interesting back and forth gameplay this week. Thank you all very much for submitting. Even if you didn't get featured, your submissions are still important because without any submissions, we would not be able to do this series. And this has still been my favorite series that we've done on the channel. So I really want to thank you all for submitting and participating and watching, of course, as well. But that'll do it for now, so let's move on to our outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.